Welcome to the Anime Audiophile Podcast. Enjoy. Sasuke Shinden, Book of Sunrise. Chapter 2. Shadow of the Past Revived by Lightning. Oh, now that I think about it, do you actually need us? Chino muttered, an annoyed look on her face, as she slipped through the bamboo grove and the forest spread out around her. The whole thing could be taken care of if we just left it all to Sassy. When the sun rose, IOU had appeared and shouted, "All of you, hurry up and find Dark Thunder and defeat them already." Sasuke had planned to go out and search on his own, but then this obstacle had popped up. So in the end, he was heading toward the village where IOU's daughter had died, together with Chino and Milwaukee. "I can go by myself," Sasuke said. The grumbling Chino pursed her lips. "When you basically come right out and say you don't need us, I actually want to fight back, though." He didn't recall going that far, but it was indeed as she said. "We'll give it our all," she shouted, looking angry. "You're not going to beat us, Sassy." "I don't care." "Stop calling me that, though. The fact that you're saying that means that you totally do care. And I'm older than you, Sassy, so I can give you a nickname." At first glance, Chino appeared, from any angle, to be a girl of around 10, but she was apparently older than he was. He could sense the wealth of her knowledge and experience, so she probably wasn't lying, but he wasn't quite satisfied with the idea, somehow. You shouldn't judge people by appearances or preconceptions. The words popped up in the back of his mind. They were his brother, Itachi's. He had heard them when he was very little. At the time, Uchiha Shisui, someone Itachi was very close with, had been pessimistic about the future of the Uchihas and had thrown himself in the Nakano River. The people of the Uchiha clan suspected that Itachi had killed him. Itachi had raised a hand against these people. They had been convinced Itachi would never lay a hand on them no matter what they said, and Itachi told them that they shouldn't judge people based on appearances or preconceptions alone. When Sasuke thought about it now, Itachi had probably been furious and sad at the time. Without even attempting to learn the first thing about Shisui's feelings, after the young man had given his life for the sake of the Uchiha clan, they interpreted the situation to suit their own cause and turned it into a means of attacking someone else. The Uchiha karma. The third Hokage, Hiruzen, had said that from the time he was little, Itachi was a sensitive child, who had noticed the signs and teachings of his predecessors that no one else paid heed to and picked up on the goings-on of other ninja in the village without anyone telling him. Rather than being a slave to the bonds of the clan, he was able to think of what lay ahead for the ninja, for the village. He considered the future and worried about it. "Are you going to join too?" He had once asked Itachi about the path he was proceeding down. The place was in front of the Konoha police headquarters. The police force, founded by Uchiha ancestors, was a division in charge of ninja crime that contributed to maintaining the peace in the village. Their father Fugaku worked as the chief there, so Sasuke asked if Itachi would also go to work there. "Dunno, we'll have to see." Itachi's response was vague. Having no idea at the time that the police was an organization to corral the Uchiha clan, or about the talk of Itachi joining the Anbu, Sasuke had innocently said, "Do it. When I grow up, I'm gonna join the police force too." This was the dream of a foolish little brother who knew precisely nothing. But Itachi had simply answered, "Yeah." His field of view had been far-reaching and broad. He was a presence that went beyond the framework of Konoha. Still, perhaps he had responded that way because he too dreamed of the two brothers on the police force together, tackling their daily duties alongside each other. Sasuke still had complicated feelings about the fact that this Itachi had been sacrificed for the Uchiha clan, for Konoha. There had been a time when he thought of nothing but restoring Itachi's honor. But Itachi wouldn't have wanted that. Brought back to life by Eda Tensei, Itachi had placed his hand on the back of Sasuke's head when they parted, pulled their foreheads together, looked straight into Sasuke's eyes and spoken. "I will love you always." Because what Itachi wanted to lead to this world in the end wasn't resentment or hatred toward it, but rather his feelings of love for his little brother. He could have cared less about restoring his honor. But apparently, Naruto was telling people that after he was brought back with the Tensei, Itachi had helped them for the sake of the world. Naruto would have known about the coup d'etat, but without touching on that, he simply offered up Itachi's name as one of the ninja who had helped him out in the Great War. Sasuke didn't expect that this would make everyone simply accept it, but there was no one who doubted Naruto. Even if there had been, Naruto would no doubt have not given up, but simply continued to tell his story. Putting aside the question of whether Itachi would have wanted it, perhaps the day would come when the feeling that Itachi had some kind of reason for what he did would sprout in Konoha. That reminds me. So, Sassy, are you heading home to Konoha? Chino asked him, perhaps bored with traveling. Given that he had just been thinking about Konoha, his heart skipped a beat, but he said nothing. Oh. So you're ignoring me? Don't you need to rebuild the Uchihas or something? I mean, there's only the one still alive. He remained silent. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Chino, quit it, Milwaukee finally chided Chino, after holding his tongue until that point. Whose side are you on? Her shouts made his eardrums vibrate, and Sasuke quietly dropped his gaze. For him, the village of Konoha was a vortex of love and hate. But perhaps the time had come when he had to come up with an answer to the question of how to deal with it. About 3 hours from Takino was the village where Iou's daughter had lived. Just awful, Chino murmured, unconsciously, upon seeing the state of the village. The houses had been destroyed, and on the walls that were left, traces of discolored blood remained. When they entered a house through a large hole, they saw the inside was also in complete disarray. Everything of monetary value had been taken. At Sasuke's feet, a stuffed animal stiffened with blood lay on its side. Framed pictures had fallen onto the floor, and in one of them, a small girl clutched this very stuffed animal, grinning alongside her family. Didn't the nearby ninja villages respond? Sasuke asked. It seems that Yugakure is moving, but the level of the ninja there isn't actually the greatest. Milwaukee sighed. The other village that's close is Shimagakure, but they're not touching this case. Even if the villagers did set out to ask the land for a mission, it'd be a dangerous road, given they can barely use any ninja arts. To begin with, the villagers of this area are so scared of the Dark Thunder group now that they hesitate to even step out of their villages. That's why they've got no choice but to grab onto travelers like us who happen to pass through, Chino added. They meet such a terrible fate as this, and yet there's no helping hand? Sasuke felt like he was being shown a clear picture of the absurdity of the world. Konoha is huge, so you're guaranteed the basics, I guess, but most places are like this. Absurd, Chino said, as she looked up at the traces of blood on the ceiling. If we're talking well-known, maybe Amagakure? That place is surrounded by the land of fire, the land of wind, and the land of earth, so every time the great nations went to war, it got dragged into it. No matter what the era or which country, it's kids who get the short end of the stick. Chino picked up the stuffed animal and the photo, and set them together on the shelf. Unless they caught the Dark Thunder group as soon as possible, a similar tragedy would likely unfold once more. He had to get information on them. You fallen Dark Thunder. That's what Iou said yesterday. What did he mean by fallen? Sasuke remembered what the old man had said because that part bothered him, somehow. Oh, the Dark Thunder group, I guess they used to work as sort of gentlemen thieves. Gentlemen thieves? Yeah. They hit bad guys, take their money, and then give it to the poor. Although back then, they were called the Bright Lightning Group. I guess it's only since they changed their name to Dark Thunder that they've been pushing the limits of cruelty, Milwaukee added. So then they were originally an ally of the weak? It was hard to understand why they would flip to the exact opposite position, but Sasuke knew it only took an instant to fall into darkness. No matter what you might live through, a single incident could turn the world upside down. Love into hate, kindness into curses, bonds into isolation. The Uchihas had been a deeply loving clan. Thus, when they lost that love, sometimes, everything was painted over and transformed into hate. It had been the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, who said that. Having been isolated and made to grow up with the power of hatred, Sasuke's way of life had maybe proven Tobirama right. Although he had come through out of the darkness, he contained the latent potential for something similar to happen in the future. A violent impulse that ate into reason slept within his body. In order to not commit the same error again, Sasuke needed to be alone and have the time to re-examine himself. He would likely never in his whole life put it into words, but he couldn't betray the trust of his friends. No, he didn't want to betray it. Which was exactly why he had to learn how to control this Uchiha blood. Because if he made connections, then he would inevitably have to experience parting and losing that love at some point. Naruto had said he would stop him if he took the wrong path again, but next time, he wanted to stand on his own 2 feet. That reminds me. So, Sassy, are you heading home to Konoha? He had several reasons for not returning to the village, but there was likely also a part of him that was afraid of making intimate connections with other people. Hey, what are we going to do now? You want to look around here a little more? Sasuke looked around the ruined village again. From IOU's story, he could guess that they also had no mercy on women and children, but this was really too awful a torment for weak opponents who couldn't really fight back. It made him want to ask if they had some serious grudge against this village. IOU had probably seen the body of his dead daughter here after she had been cruelly ripped apart. It was perhaps no wonder he sought revenge. While he thought about this, Chino suddenly sat down on the spot. She put her ear to the ground and closed her eyes. What's the matter? I felt like it moved just now. Moved? The water underground. Ear still pressed to the earth, Chino Wolf's signs. Milwaukee put his index finger to his lips to indicate that Sasuke should be quiet. Chino's body was enveloped in chakra, and this began to enter the earth. I'm connected. It is moving. Something's closing in on Takino. So was she a sensor ninja? Karen, a member of Taka, was also excellent at sensing. She could see through to the nature of, and changes in, chakra that even Sasuke couldn't even begin to understand. It wasn't a surprise to find a sensor like Chino who could feel things over long distances. Dark thunder? It could be. As she stood up, Chino looked up at Sasuke. We're going back. Sasuke kicked at the ground and charged through the village into the woods. He leapt over the tree roots and jumped from branch to branch, gradually gaining speed. Chino and Milwaukee chased after him frantically. It had taken them 3 hours to get from Takino to IOU's daughter's village, but Sasuke had taken his time with that trip, searching out the surrounding areas for any auras or other clues. Now he was practically running in a mad dash, and he quickly closed the distance to Takino. When the trees finally start to open up into the bamboo grove, they heard the loud boom of an explosion. Sassy, I smell smoke. Takino was upwind. When they saw it, there was no doubt what was happening. Sasuke ran even faster, the bamboo leaves crunching under his feet. Help! He heard the sharp cry of a woman. When he looked in that direction, he saw a young woman fleeing from the direction of the village toward them. Behind her, men with leering grins on their faces chased after her. Milwaukee shouted, Sasuke, it's the Dark Thunder group. The men held swords in their hands and brandished them at the woman. We're killing everyone. In a single fluid movement, Sasuke pulled a kunai from his pocket and threw it. The kunai knocked away the sword, aiming for the woman's neck just as it was on the verge of striking. Who are you? The enemy were 3 in number. Without replying to their question, he pulled out 3 more kunai and released them in the direction of the woman. Yeep. Hey. You're gonna hit, Chino raised a voice in panic, but all the kunai slipped past the woman and plunged into the bodies of the men behind her. Gah! Sasuke leapt over the woman's head and landed right next to one of the men felled by his kunai, lying face up on the ground. Sasuke closed his eyes, focused his power there, and then opened them again. His red Sharingan with the 3 tomo marks. He caught the man's gaze with these eyes. Control via Genjutsu. Foam spilled out of the man's mouth. He wouldn't be able to move for a while. It's Sasuke. It's Sasuke of the Sharingan. We have to tell Lord Kiryu, the second man yelled, yanking the kunai out of his body and getting to his feet. Sasuke somersaulted across the bamboo leaves, leaned in toward the man's feet, pressed his right hand to the ground, and pushed his lower body up. The sole of his left foot kicked out and caught the man on the chin. The blow gave the man a concussion, and his eyes rolled back to the whites as he dropped to the ground. And that was 2. Yeep, the last man gave a pathetic cry and tried to run. Sasuke unsheathed his sword and let his chakra flow into it. With the blade enveloped in crackling electricity, he thrust it at the man's defenseless back. Ga. The electricity poured into the man's body, and he collapsed from the shock. With that, all 3 of the men who had been chasing the woman were on the ground. Scary. Instant kill. I didn't kill them. Sasuke shook off the electricity and sheathed his sword before surveying the area. It appeared other villagers were fleeing as well and being chased by the Dark Thunder group. He moved to help them, but then he heard another loud explosion from the village. Sassy. We'll deal with the escaping villagers somehow. You go to the village. Chino had apparently also sensed the enemies. She ran off in that direction. Milwaukee pulled out a chakra blade and followed her. Deciding to leave them to handle that situation, Sasuke ran toward the village. When he slipped through the bamboo, he found the villagers sitting on the ground, motionless. It seemed that their legs had been injured and they couldn't move. So Dark Thunder was planning to torture and kill them once they ensured the villagers couldn't get away. Him? In the center of the village, a man stood, holding a ball in each hand. He appeared to be the leader. You. Kiryu. So you finally showed yourself in this village. IOU stood in front of this Kiryu. He was already hurt in various places, blood dripped down from his forehead. All he had was his bamboo lance. But he gripped it tightly and charged at Kiryu. As if that's going to work. Kiryu threw one of the balls at IOU. The instant it hit IOU in the stomach, it bounced back with a crack. IOU went flying and slammed into the wall of his house behind him. Gah! An enormous amount of blood jetted out of his mouth. Now then, let's go for the head, shall we? Kiryu took aim at the head of IOU, slumped down, back against the wall, and threw the other ball to strike the final blow. IOU couldn't move a muscle. The fierce sound of the house being destroyed echoed through the village, and once the dust settled, there was a gaping hole in the wall. But IOU was nowhere to be seen. Bebrat, seconds before, Sasuke had grabbed onto IOU's clothes and yanked him away. Oh! Kiryu looked at Sasuke and blinked several times before a look of delight rose up onto his face. I never dreamed I'd actually get to meet you, Sasuke. He appeared thrilled to the bone. Uchiha Sasuke. I've admired you so much. The man who burned with revenge for his clan and stuck to his own principles, even going so far as to take on the world. I've wanted to meet you. I've wanted so much to meet you. Just as Milwaukee had said, Kiryu adored Sasuke. The Sasuke from when he was steeped in darkness. Kiryu spread both arms wide as if to show his appreciation. In contrast, Sasuke looked at Kiryu with a feeling of disgust. What, boy? You're with Kiryu? Holding back the blood oozing out of his side, IOU suddenly turned suspicious eyes on Sasuke. Apparently, he had already forgotten that Sasuke had saved him. End of part 1. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.